Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fearless Floyd Show. As always, I am your host, Fearless Floyd, and I'm waiting on Asher to join us backstage. I believe this is his first time doing this, so be patient with him. And I am back. Comment, maybe that's him there. No. Hey, what's going on, Freedom Studio channel? Glad to have you. Should be a pretty interesting show. I had an interesting conversation with Asher. Darrel Link introduced me to him yesterday. We got, I got the elevator pitch basically of what his mm, ideation is. uh, I didn't really get into, hey, has it worked? Is it effective? Blah, blah, blah. I just got the minutia of it, the quick little elevator pitch, as I said. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's hear him out and see what he's got and see if it's anything new, interesting, something that you guys may be able to assist with. I don't know. We'll see. Let me email him the link. Yeah, he's calling me right now. So hang on. All right. As I said, we got all that taken care of. So he's backstage. I don't know if it's connecting. I don't know what it's doing. I don't see his image. I don't know if we'll just play it by ear, see how it goes. We may have to do the old telephone thing. It's just technology. It's the way it is. So basically, claim of life. That's what he's going to talk about, and he's going to do some definitions. He gave me some um, images to show you guys. Um, hang on. They will need to connect their microphone and cam. Yeah. He has no microphone. Okay. All right. So we're going to do this the old fashioned way. So let me kick in from the studio. There you go. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's fine. I introduced as you didn't understand the StreamYard technology. No big deal. Next time, just download the app and it'll automatically connect your microphone and your camera on your phone to the app.
Okay.
So, yeah, don't even worry about that now. We're going to do this the old-fashioned way on speakerphone and see if we can fly with that. So here we go, folks. Go ahead and talk, Asher.
Yes, I am here.
Okay. And I got you turned up.
And I did hear the introduction. I was on another phone listening to the intro.
Okay. All right. Let me go over to the comments. I've got some viewers. Can y'all hear him? Y'all give me a 5x5, whatever.
I am here, Floyd, ready to communicate with your listeners.
Okay. Not getting anything. Okay, I got a 5x5. Good. All right. Oops. Okay. Asher, usually I just tell everybody to introduce themselves. Like I said, I met you through Darrel. I really don't know anything about you, your background, your history. You can introduce yourself however you want to the audience, and then basically give them a synopsis of what we're going to talk about, kind of lay it out as an outline, and then we'll take off and do the show.
Okay, great. Yes, I'm Asher. I was born in Philadelphia. I'm 65. I began having some trouble with my Methodist church, with the pastor, and I wanted them to follow our membership. And so I sat in a meeting that they were looking to nominate people for our elections once a year, and he wanted me to leave. I refused because I felt it should be open, and he had me arrested. I was for trespassing shortly thereafter. I had no notice of that. We went to through a trial situation for 6 months. He dismissed the charges once he got his promotion. And then about 5 years later, the next pastor refused to follow the Book of Discipline. So I began to wear a striped Halloween, black and white striped prison uniform.
Okay, let me. I told you sometimes I would pause you for clarification, and not everybody's a Methodist, and they really don't understand, what is the Book of Discipline and how did they violate all that. So, because that's a big part of how you got from A to Z, from there to here today.
It is.
Yes.
Book of Discipline is, the Methodists were one of the reasons why America was so successful in many people's views, just not my own. That's historical record, because they had a very large presence on the frontier going west. They had ministers that would travel on horseback and preach the gospel. And I had never been in a Methodist church. And when I moved back from California to Jersey to take care of a sick parent, I joined the Methodist church under what I felt was the leading of the Spirit. Didn't know why. Our town was founded by a Methodist group of pastors as a non-alcoholic seaside resort. It's called Ocean City, New Jersey, down on the Jersey Shore. And it's a booming, very successful resort. People come here by the millions every summer. And so we were having some trouble. We've never had a revival here. And the government is kind of they've become very mean, just like other places in America. And so through the process of the clergy asking the local police, they have naturally a close relationship because it was the founding church of the island many years ago. And so I just kept staying there in order to try to bring change to our summer visitors so that we could do more of why the town was founded, which is minister the gospel, as opposed to amusements and cotton candy and shopping and that kind of thing. And so I'm a born-again Christian filled with the Holy Spirit, and believe that people need to be born again in order to enter the kingdom of heaven and to have an eternal life. That's my own observation and opinion position. And I've seen the change that the Holy Spirit brings to people when they open themselves to the Spirit of God through Christ the Savior. So the Methodist Church, many people probably are aware, has kind of been on the skids. They had a schism recently in the last 5 years or so, which was a long time arriving. And so they have refused, the city has refused, all the churches that are here have refused to go full bore in the summer when the 150,000 new people every week come to town for a week. And my objective is to give them something meaningful when they're here so that they can take home with them. That's not a suntan or the family orientation time, which is good. So our book of discipline is the reason why Methodism grew so quickly and so strongly, like a solid oak tree, because one was expected to act a certain way as a Methodist and live a certain way. Many people who don't know about John Wesley, he was over from England, and he had a method to his Christianity. He was a member of what they called the Holy Club. There was a recent movie that just was put out about John Whitfield that was in some of the theaters around the country called, I forget the name of the movie, but it had to do with the founding of the nation during that time, and John Whitfield was over here also on fire for God. So I could not understand for the 10 years I was attending why I didn't see any results. I usually get very good results when I belong to a church as far as growth in the people. I'm just a layman, but I'm aggressive in the spiritual sense of fasting and prayer and deliverance ministry, and bring that to the people. And so that was not acceptable in the Methodist local church, and also just in general in our various, what we call our conference, which is like our state kind of. So I finally figured out the reason why this was happening, and the reason was that the minister is in charge of the nominations committee of who we're going to put on the ballot to run various ministries in the church. And I didn't realize that it was basically hand-picked as opposed to conversation. I never saw a single person that wasn't hand-picked. There was never any discussion in our annual election meeting of maybe this isn't the best person for the job. It was already a done deal. And so naturally the minister would pick people that were like him as opposed to people like me. And so that's why I sat in the nominations committee, because 3 months before the meeting, I wanted to know who was being nominated so that I could maybe draft somebody else as a possible suggestion. And so through that process of being trespassed without notice and having him dismiss the charges, and then the next pastor came along and he indicated that he was not going to honor our bylaws, our book of discipline. And I asked him why. I said, is it reasonable for a Methodist member that you would follow our discipline since you're a pastor and you took a vow to do so, like all of us? He said, from the pulpit, he actually stated twice on 2 different occasions, the reason I do not follow the book of discipline is because I do not like rules. He said he was
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm
can't make that up.
It gets more crazier from here.
Oh,
So,
yippee.
so I'm a peaceable man. And I was like, all right, Lord, how do I tell the church that not only is this guy not following our discipline, they all heard that, but they didn't understand the importance. But the previous 5 years before, I had actually been arrested for trying to obey the discipline. And so no one knew that hardly anyone knew I had been arrested and put in jail, and also then gone to a trespass trial. At the time, this is important to the conversation today, because this is what began my journey to where we're going to be talking about today, the difference between a judge with a capital J and a judicial officer, or a judge with a small j. And in that...
now, let me ask you this, because you brought that up, and I've been thinking on that. Is judicial officer with a capital J?
Well, if we look at the Constitution in the proper style, the J is lowercase, but the O is uppercase. So,
really? Okay. All right.
Yeah. I sent you which you're welcome to share with anyone. I sent you what I call the best version, essentially. I started studying once I got locked up fraudulently again. I started studying the various organic laws in order to discover where we've gone off track and how I could protect myself from false arrest, malicious prosecution, false imprisonment, etc.
Okay. So, which one should I show here?
Just the Constitution of the United States. Anyone can go.
Says,
yeah.
Well, I'm opening up the attachments that you sent. I'm going through them. I haven't opened them yet until just now.
It'll probably have 1776 in it, because I do things by date. I like to 1787. I'm sorry, the Federal Constitution initial signing. It says podcast best, and then the date the Constitution was signed.
Okay, I got the claim and chief of police. 2026 template. What's this one? Beyond the Sea. That was a letter to city council. You sent me 5, right?
We'll go to the next one, because that was the main 5 we were going to talk about. But then now that we started with the Constitution, it's in the next email.
Oh, the next email. I don't think I got it.
Yeah, I didn't want to bury you with.
No, I only have one email from you, unless it went to spam. Let me go with spam. There it is.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Not your fault. How often I check spam? I only have, that was 5 that I have in there. You always have to check it. All right, let me get back to it. Where is it at? There it is. Extra 3. Oh. We got a bunch over here. 1776.
You want to go to 1787 Constitution.
Okay. 1778, 1783, 1787. Let's see it. 1787. What was this one? Federal. Can't read the title.
That's the one. Federal Constitution. Yep.
Okay.
And so, in the process of being locked up in jail for almost 2 years, because I refused to give jurisdiction to the court and didn't know anything that I know today, I learned that back then, and even today, which I'll get into perhaps, the founding documents, when they used a small beginning letter to a word or a capital letter, there was a reason why they used it. There was a law, a rule, a meaning behind it. They were trying to convey certain information, rights, power, authority. And what I learned was when a word starts with a small letter, it's basically common law, And when it's a capital letter, it means it's subject to something or someone. So in Article 6, Clause 2, the word judge is a capital J. So what is that judge? We're going to read Article 6, Clause 2, I hope. So if you scroll down
okay,
to Article 6, Clause 2, and the reason why I wrote these...
6, Clause 2.
There you go. You're at 1. And I highlighted various things that mean different, like I just highlighted certain things for certain reasons. But this is my worksheets, what I use. That was Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, that they can't come outside of DC, right? A lot of us know that the true information, it's just how do we prevent them from taking our life, liberty, and property. Okay, here we go. So we're going to go to section number 2 shortly. This Constitution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but before we do that, up in number 1, you see the word engagements?
Yes.
All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States. So the Founding Fathers said, what we're creating, they're going to be potentially against the people, and the people need to have protection from this monster, this tyrannical monster we know we're creating, but they had their reasons for creating it, which are in the Federalist Papers. So the word engagements there, what are some of the engagements that were before the Constitution? The organic laws, which is that's the drum I like to beat, because it really means we can become free using the organic laws, because they trump any statutes, codes, and regulations.
Well, what is the definition? Would this be just a basic definition? Is Black's Law, Bouvier's,
That's
Congress?
A very good question. I haven't looked at it recently. We could real quick. But let's assume for the moment, while we look it up, that it refers to the organic laws.
Okay.
And those organic laws are listed in the front of all of the titles to the United States Code. That literally is the first thing. It's called front matter, and it'll refer to the organic laws. And when you open that up, it refers to the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, the Northwest Ordinance, and then the Constitution of the United States.
All right.
And back then, I prefer to use Bouvier's because blacks didn't exist at the time, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't like to use their terminology today, because they've had all kinds of time to twist and turn it and make it in their favor, as opposed to my unalienable rights. And that's a very good, I will actually do that in the future, is include the Bouvier's definition.
Would you repeat it again? This is Bouvier's that we're discussing here?
Well, I'm about to look it up.
Oh, okay.
Engagements. And I'm at D. I'm at E.
I don't know if I want to even look at Wikipedia's.
Right. Well, we certainly can. It's not. I really wasn't. I'd like to have my everything in hand before I have to search around for it.
Well, it could be a pledge, something that engages, pledge, job or period of employment, especially as a performer. So we're looking for performance always, right? Arrangement to meet or be present at a specified time or place. act of engaging, the state of being engaged, emotional involvement or commitment, betrothal, the state of being in gear, and last, a hostile encounter between military and forces.
It looks like I was able to locate. Let's see if it gives it a definition here in Bouviers.
Right. I'll tell you what, I like this feature of StreamYard where I can leave the screen share and go search without having to screen share what I'm searching for. That's pretty nifty. They've done a lot of improvements with StreamYard. I guess they got my message.
Right. Well, I am about to send you the definition, and it's really nothing that you spoke of. Here it goes, and I'll start reading it while you get it. Well, you can repeat it.
Yeah.
The word is frequently used. It's a short 2 lines. The word is frequently used in the French law to signify not only a contract, but the obligations arising from a quasi-contract. The terms obligations and engagements are said to be synonymous. But the code seems specially to apply the term engagement to those obligations which the law imposes on a man without the intervention of any contract, either on the part of the obligor or the obligee. So our Constitution does it not impose an obligation on the man, the judge, right? They're under the oath of office. The very first, and I don't know if I included that today for you, Floyd, but the very first act, Statutes at Large, Volume 1, Chapter 1, Section 1, 2, and 3, is regarding the oath of office that all government workers or government servants, employees, officers, and appointees must take, both of the United States government and of the several states. So I am of the view that when I go into any court, that court belongs to the judge that's sitting on the bench, and my court sits with me. So we have 2 courts. It's not the court of the municipality. It's not the court of the county. It's me versus the judge. And we are engaged. So we have engagements which bind. We have organic laws which bind the judge. So let's read, can we, article of Section 2, I'm sorry. Section 2, if you could.
Section 2?
Clause 2 of Article 6.
Okay.
So we were stuck on engagements, but let's move on. Because that really isn't the, I don't want to use up the time now.
Well, it's a valid question because it's the one that's capitalized out of the 2, all debts and then contracted. Contracting is a big deal, but engagements is capitalized. That's why I asked. All right, moving on. Where are we going to?
Yes.
All right.
So we're going to presume that the organic laws, which includes the Constitution of the United States, the engagements were before the Constitution. So if I had time, I would show you that the only place the United States of America, upper and lower case, occurs almost, I've not really ever found it anywhere else except in the Articles of Confederation. That was the style of this confederacy. And if we look at that, the style of this confederacy, it's an upper and lower case. And that basically was the common law when you and I were fighting the British. We were on the land of the various confederacy states with a small c. We have an obligation to each other to fight the British, to live as free men together and honor one another with do unto others as we would have them do unto we would do unto others as we would do unto others as we would have them do unto us.
Right.
So the judge. So my premise that I bet my freedom on is what we're going to be talking about today, and that is I have finally understood not just what the courts are doing, but the how, and what their basis in their own understanding of the statutes that are written, how they do what they do, and most importantly, how to defeat it to whereby the judge/judicial officer, if he violates the Constitution, will face loss of career, loss of bar license, and potentially loss of his freedom, as well as the fines. And I believe we have discovered, it's not just me, we're all working together. And I have a lot of friends that help me with, we help each other to understand what's happening and bounce different concepts off each other and then test them to see if they work. So assuming that the judge is under this Constitution, let's read their Article 6, Clause 2, and what he is bound to do. So the key is 99% of the time that we go into court, we're not talking to a judge. He's not acting, he or she is not acting as a judge, even though his nameplate says judge. And we're going to learn what office they're actually acting in. Okay, back down to 6. And we're going to go to the second. This is probably one of my favorite clauses. I have quite a few clauses in the Constitution I love. Okay, this Constitution, you want to read it? So, please.
No, go ahead. You're doing a fine job.
This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be, could you drop down a bit? Shall be the supreme law of the land. So we're going to skip the treaties part, meaning let's just talk about this Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land, the supremacy clause. So is it possible that we've been tricked to not be on the land? I say yes. Now, how have they tricked us, and how can I defeat their presumption whereby they must see me on the land as a judge? Because let's look at what the judge must do. A real judge in every state shall be bound thereby. Now let's assume for the moment that the engagements do include the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and the Northwest Ordinance. Because it said all debts contracted and engagements entered into shall be as valid against the United States. So every judge, regardless of whether he's a municipal judge, a county judge, a district judge for the feds, every one of them in every state shall be bound thereby. We're trying to get to the law, supreme law of the land. And the judges are bound to the law of the land, which is supreme. Unless, of course, they found a trickster way to not be a judge. Therefore, they don't have to give me the law of the land. They can give me the law of maritime admiralty, commercial, however you want to say it. But then here's my favorite line after. They shall be bound thereby anything in the Constitution or laws of any state, to the contrary notwithstanding. A real judge would have the Constitution of the United States as his baseline. regardless of what's in the Constitution of New Jersey, of California, if it's clear to a judge that the matter before him is a violation of the Constitution and he's supposed to be learned, I claim he should not have to we should not have to spend 10 years going to the Supreme Court. But is it because judges are not judges under Article 6, Clause 2? And if not, what are they? And that's what we're going to learn in the next clause. So do you have any comments or questions, Floyd, right now?
No.
Okay. So the way I found this out was
Now, I will say this, though. You know, the word thing, that's what they consider the people. Things. As well as, we're defined as monsters, humans. Did you know? Have you ever heard that?
Yes, but
Okay.
I would not agree with that. I would not agree with that.
That this is the context, that it's
Exactly.
applicable. Okay, that's fine.
I can tell you through this process, I found out there's not a single warrant in New Jersey since 1844 that's valid, because the Bill of Rights talks about persons or things to be seized, and in New Jersey, every warrant only mentions two items: papers and things. There are no persons present in any warrant in New Jersey, which goes to the fraud they're committing against us when they're seizing papers and things. They're not seizing persons.
Okay.
And I don't mean the person who's the corporation. I mean the person in the Bill of Rights, person or things to be seized. That's the Bill of Rights. New Jersey, papers and things. And it all relates back to the bar, the banking.
Oh, no, not those guys.
The ability of the Crown
They're
and the
choir
Vatican.
boys, right?
Yes.
They'd never do anything bad to us.
They wake up saying, how many people's lives can I ruin today?
Mm-hmm.
They get paid.
Yeah, how much money of theirs can I steal with them actually giving it to me?
Right. So what I'm hoping to do with this information that I've recently uncovered, and the process we've all been through, a multi-year process of understanding and learning, and we're 50 years behind. People who lived in common law, that's just the way it was. When you had the state, we had dual federalism. I think you mentioned that to me the other day, whereby the good states, the de jure states, we didn't need the federal government because states pretty much were not too bad in most ways as far as doing the right thing. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but there was a case where a sailor was struck offshore here in Jersey in the late 1700s. He did not die. A sailor bopped him in the head. They were fighting. The man died about a month later on land. And the United States Maritime Admiralty, international jurisdiction, said, we get to prosecute for murder. And the state said, sorry, he died on land. We get to prosecute for murder. So there were two different jurisdictions trying to prosecute him. It wasn't like it is today. And the Supreme Court was asked to decide, and they decided on the state because of the supreme law of the land. He died on land. Today, since the land almost isn't there because of the way they've defined us, that's why I claim the courts are maritime today. And let me tell you how I arrived at that conclusion. I know a lot of people dispute it, but I lived it, and And I proved it in various ways. And the main way I proved it was when I didn't get jurisdiction after I was arrested for stalking the pastor on a public church service. True story. And the police, because I had been locked out of my church because of my clothing, I would show up every Sunday to go to my normal church service, and all the doors would be locked. The only person they didn't let in was me. And this went on week after week after week. And the police would stand between me and the door, and they hired a security company, and then the elders would be standing there like a wall. And I never violated. I just went up to where they were. And so after 8 weeks of that, we had a beach service on the boardwalk because summer was starting. And after we had 2 services that day, and I went up there, public property, at a gazebo, a pavilion, overlooking the ocean. It was beautiful. Great sermon, good music. And in between the 2 services, the police called me over, and one guy said, the lieutenant, who was the commanding officer that day, he said, I have a warrant for your arrest. This was 2021. This was the start of really where I began to learn what was going on. I said, okay, show it to me. He said, I've seen it. Long story short, it appears that that warrant was forged because they didn't want to wake a judge up on a Sunday morning or bother him, and they typically can do whatever they want after the fact. So they took me to county jail because I refused to bail out and honor their system at all. And so, or plead. And so the way that the municipal warrants, municipal meaning domestic, meaning Vatican, way meaning commercial, the warrants, tickets, summonses, we know they're in all caps, correct?
Right.
So therefore, what I'm going to show you in the next clause is what I believe to be the key, that the judicial, every time I would get a warrant or a summons, it would always be signed by the title of the judge of the municipal court, JMC, would be judicial officer. And it would always be in all caps as far as where the signature was. And then in the probable cause, it would talk about the judicial officer, which is the small j, and I claim that's the man. The judicial officer is the man who's an officer. So he is signing it. But as far as the issuance of the warrant, his title is all caps. He's arresting the all caps, which I, of course, as we know, have been surety for. So the question is how to diffuse that and make it go away and turn it into a crime on their part. And that is what I believe we have done. And there's a little bit of evidence at the moment to prove it. They're never going to admit that we finally got them. But as more people test it and find it to be true or not. So in the process of me being put in county jail, and because I refused to give jurisdiction to the county judge, the superior court of the county, I was sent for a competency hearing at a mental institution. It was supposed to be a month, turned into 6. I didn't know. She had sold bonds at the time. I knew nothing about how all that works. The only reason I got out is because the bond expired. And she wasn't willing to renew it. And check this out. The name was written, all caps on every municipal warrant, upper and lower case, middle initial on the county charges, the indictment, or the paperwork that they gave me when they released me the one time, and then I went back in. Because I was arrested twice because I didn't show up because of the lack of jurisdiction in my mind. So they held me in contempt and I was going to the church to vote for people who weren't going to arrest me. So that got me my second offense for stalking. And then when I was shipped to the mental institution, the shipping order was like a bill of lading. That was in all caps. The order to transport was in all caps. The name was in all caps. When I got to the mental institution and they did my first interview, when the report came back, it was all caps, last name first.
So hold on.
First name.
You ended up in a mental institution for stalking your pastor?
No, for being accused of stalking.
Yes. Even more ludicrous. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that for everybody, that we're all on the same page following this lunacy. All right. Continue. Thank you. I digress.
Absolutely. No, that's good. I'm glad you help people understand, because I need that for sure. Because I'm trying to stay cogent, clear. So check this out. So
I don't mean to laugh, but it's just.
No, that's all right. You can't hurt my feelings. We're so far down the road. You know, we've all been through it. So
yeah.
No, it is. It is absolutely. It's so ludicrous. It's hilarious.
Yeah. And wow. Okay.
So we, after 3 months, I was supposedly there was a, am I competent to stand trial? They talked to me, and they said, well, he still hasn't let go of this sovereign stuff, so I don't think he's competent to stand trial. So, and I didn't know it, but the judge now went ahead and signed a second 3-month commitment, which gave her more money, right? And so we're about a month out. We're 5 months in. I'm having my meetings with them, and they said to me, Mr. Dice, we can hold you here indefinitely. I said, you do what you have to do. I said, you're already potentially, in violation of numerous federal laws for participating in keeping me here, knowing full well I'm competent.
Right.
And the only time the name was spelled proper was in the competency report from the mental hospital to the court that he is competent. It's the only time the name was written properly. So they validated what we all kind of know to be true. So it can happen. But it's never going to happen probably in any of their normal court paperwork. It had to come from the state of New Jersey that this man is competent and it was spelled correctly in proper form. So, and now we're going to go into something that happened regarding county court versus municipal court, judge versus judicial officer. This, I didn't know it at the time, but now it makes perfect sense. So I was charged with numerous felonies, those 2 felonies plus resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and I demanded trial by jury. I had people like you guys that are out there in the audience talking to me in the jail and in the mental institution, learning what is going on. This was 2021, 22. And, we're all kind of getting more and more good information as time goes on. And in the process of me continuing to demand trial by jury, the judge, and she was acting as a judge at that moment, obliged to the Constitution, she found me in contempt, criminal contempt for her court. And I demanded trial by jury for that. And what was interesting was what I found interesting because the contempt charge had to go before some other judge, and they knew I was demanding trial by jury, they ended up having to make that disappear somehow. I don't know how they did it, but that disappeared. And then this is the key point, the 2 felonies in the process, she said, we're going to reduce felonies. I talked to the district attorney here, the prosecutor. We're going to reduce them to misdemeanors. And I remember I demanded trial by jury 100 times. She says, we are going to hold a municipal court trial, turning this court into a municipal court, and I will be the sole trier and finder of fact. And you do not even have to come to court, she said. I did not know what happened right at that moment, but now I know what happened. Municipal courts are being run by administrators who have an oath to the Constitution of this state, not the Constitution of the state of New Jersey. It says the Constitution of this state. And I know from my friends in Texas, it said it's all over that. They never hardly ever talk about the Constitution of the state of Texas. It's always this state. So what is this state? I can't prove it. I think this state has to do with the administrative state. Now, what are they administrating? They're administrating a dead man's estate. So I sent us, your friends there, that you can probably, we're going to look at it in a moment, what we have done to defang the municipal judge. And I believe because even a superior court or district court judge all the way up to, it probably goes to the Supreme Court. They're all bar members. I just saw today, I found some new information. Attorneys at law take the same oath to administrate as the judges. Mm-hmm. All the time I was in and out of court, I felt that the prosecutors turned into executive officers. It's not true. They stay judicial officers. They belong to the court. They're a member of the court. They're obligated to the court. So if the court is administrating our estates, how do we stop them from doing that? And the answer is we prove we're alive. Now, many of my friends have put their proof of life on the record in a court case. And I tried to do that in my court case recently for trespassing, but they're trying to still charge me for the original trespassing charges at the church from 2021. I attempted to put my claim in fact of life and also a motion for an identity hearing, which I don't know, I can't speak to it adequately enough, but I know 2 people who were incarcerated, one for 5 years, another for a couple months. They both used a motion for an identity hearing to get out of jail because they had broke the commercial contract that they were being held on. And the way we learned this was this one particular individual had been framed in the federal system for she was an MD and she had a radiology business. And when she was framed and went before the original judge in the federal court, he asked her, he was trying to help her. He said, do you want your identity hearing to be held in Kansas or Oklahoma? Because she didn't know what he was trying to do, she didn't pick either one. Had she picked either one, her identity hearing would have identified her as a living woman, and then the charges would have dissipated. So that has led us to what I'm doing on the front end before I'm incarcerated or charged, and that is putting the claim in fact of life into the public record in a newspaper at the county. But here, let's go to Article 6, Clause 3, it talks about the senators and representatives. And we can kind of skip that. And then it says, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. So all executive and judicial officers. So now remember, attorneys at law, I can prove it today. I don't have it. I just found it today. Attorneys are judicial officers. Now you can't trust, we know we can't trust AI because it runs, it might be true, but it also might be just continuing to cement their beliefs, which are false, to get people to act a certain way.
Right.
So a judicial officer in this is in the last 2 months. I'm like, because I'm getting ready to go to this. I was summoned again for the third trespassing charge. There's 7 more outstanding, 6 or 7 more. And I was studying the oath in New Jersey, and it turns out, check this out, the first oath that a superior court judge up to a justice of the Supreme Court signs the oath of allegiance to the Constitution of the United States. A municipal judge and a surrogate, I don't know if some of you folks know what a surrogate is, but a surrogate comes from merry old England, and it has to do with our states when we actually pass away, to make sure that public official who's elected in New Jersey makes sure that the proceeds go to the correct people. That is their duty. But they're dealing with an estate. So the administrative oath, it's not the original oath, which is in regular statutes. There's another, they're tricky. They go ahead and do an administration. It's number 2A as opposed to Section 2. It's Section 2A, which means administrative. And in there it says that the municipal judges and the surrogates shall take this oath, which is to the Constitution of this state. That's their first obligation. So that means that municipal judges are of the same administration capacity over estates as surrogates. And then the third and final, I'm presuming it's the third, but the final piece to the puzzle was when I went back to, when I continued to look at the administrative code, it said after, I'm paraphrasing, after the Superior Court judges and after the Supreme Court and appellate justices and judges take their original oath to the Constitution of the United States, the oath of allegiance, they shall also take the judicial oath, which is the oath that the municipal judges and the surrogates take. Now, let's look at what happened to me when I was in a superior court demanding trial by jury, which was denied because they cannot give it to us. We know that. So what do? They reduce the charges to misdemeanors, putting the case into a municipal court, which allows that superior court judge to take off her judge hat with a capital J and put on a small j judicial officer hat and administer my estate as a dead, lost at sea, legally, civilly dead entity, which of course goes to the fines and the Chris number, which happened after the fact, after the conviction. All of a sudden I get this probation notice. By the way, probation has the same root as probate.
Right.
So anyone on probation, by definition, their estate is being probate. Go ahead. Did you have a comment?
No, none.
Question. Okay. All right. So that is so here's where I am right now. Let's pull up the claim and fact of life, which is probably in the first email. So I get this summons to appear, and I've already been put in jail for 60 days for 2 30-day sentences, which, by the way, the previous judge, municipal judge, issued a warrant. When I got the notice by letter, I read the code, the statutes in New Jersey, and it said they have to send me a certified letter. So I just waited for that. Well, they didn't wait for that. He issued a warrant for the name. And when I was taken down to county jail, I refused to leave the jail because he refused to obey the Constitution. And I felt that there was no way he could take me, a man from county, to a municipal court, hold a trial, and bring me back to county jail. I didn't know that. Didn't think the county would participate in that, which they did not. And after 59 days and 2 sessions that were video, where I was accusing him of treason and pointing out the violations of the Constitution, they came in after and then said, Asher, if you just sign this piece of paper, you can go home today. I looked at it. I said, I'll tell you what, you give me my 6th Amendment right, make a phone call, because at the time I was not allowed to make phone calls. They had me completely incommunicado. I said, you allow me to make a phone call to talk to my counsel, and after that, then I'll let you know if I'm going to sign this. They walked out. A different officer, sheriff's officer, came back about an hour later, and he told me, roll up, you're leaving. And I was released. No signature, nothing. So again, they're operating in the dead capacity. Okay, so here's the claim and fact of life. So can you, hopefully you have it, you can still pull it back up. I want you to go back to Article 4, because that's going to be why we did this. That's why I did this. It's based on a constitutional reason. Article 4, Clause 1, Section 1. Can you go back and forth easily or not?
Say that again?
Can you pull back up the Constitution and go to Article 4? Because what I like to do is I don't like to base my actions on what AI or Google tells me the Constitution says. I like to read it for myself and then make my decisions accordingly. So we're going to go to Article 4, Section 1
There it is.
of the Constitution.
Article 4, Section 1.
Please. Now remember, this Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound. So I have to keep them as a judge. If they try to turn into a judicial officer, I lose my law of the land. Is the station. Or if they try to bring me in as a judicial officer, which is where I'm at today, being pulled in next week, I'm not going. We're going to find out if we don't hear. Floyd, if you don't hear from me for 35 days or more, guess what? None of this worked.
Right.
Okay.
You're in trouble.
Okay. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state. So I put a public act on the record in a county newspaper where they provide a affidavit of publication, and a clerk of the county newspaper is a state officer. They notarize the fact that my affidavit of life, my claim and fact of life, was published on the public record in the newspaper. The way I arrived at this tactic was I had to imagine that I had in fact been a sailor. I had in fact been lost at sea. I had in fact not been heard from for over 7 years, declared legally, civilly dead. And I'm like, okay, if that were to actually happen and I basically washed up ashore on the county land, what would I need to do to reclaim my estate? And I came to the conclusion, publish it in the county newspaper. And so my associate, who was the one who finally learned and freed herself from prison using a motion for an identity hearing, she was kind enough to help me with making sure that what we were doing with our claim and fact of life is going to be the best possible. Simple and yet effective. So the Constitution, remember, a judge shall be bound by what?
Constitution of the United States.
Shall be bound by the Constitution of the United States, notwithstanding anything in the Constitution or laws of any state. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. So they're obliged to obey the Constitution, but not in their world if there's a thing or a dead estate being administered in their court. Their court, not my court, their court.
Right.
Okay, so let's go back to the claim and fact of life. We'll just read that over, and that will, hopefully people will get the picture of what it's accomplishing, what I hope it's accomplishing.
Where'd it go?
And there are some who believe that this claim and fact of life, if and when we succeed in proving its efficacy, that this could be the very silver bullet that we all can start with when someone, even with all the other contracts, supposed adhesion contracts and all that are out there.
Uh-huh.
I'm of the view, I mean, I have a driver's license. I will tell you that when I got out of jail, I needed to rent a car. I didn't have a passport card. And I went ahead and went out to the DMV, and I sent a letter a week ahead of time, because we make appointments. And I sent a letter to the manager demanding their oath, holding them to their oath of office to Article 1, Section 10. No state shall make anything but gold and silver coin as payment in tender of debt. And guess what happened? It took me 2 trips, and it took me having to contact the Trenton Department of Motor Vehicles, and it took me getting the secretary there to tell me I could pay with cash, check, or credit card, or money order. But I had put on the record I was going to be demanding her oath of office, and that I would file federal criminal charges for perjury of oath, and however they wanted to. At the time, I can't say exactly how to do it, but I was going to file criminal charges if they charged me for that license. So I actually succeeded. The license I carry today has a notation on it, 0 cost. I was at a freedom luncheon or breakfast with some people, and a former state trooper was sitting next to me. He says, "Let me see that." Took out his, $42. Took out mine, 0. So it does work. And the only officer with an oath in the entire DMV in the state of New Jersey corporation is the commissioner. She was the only one going to lose her job. They didn't give me that license because she was the only one with the oath under Article 6, Clause 2, and I gave her notice. Okay, claim in fact of life. I, Ashton, made it, and I'm a claimant over the age of 21 years, and am competent witness to claim on the public record the following. Before I continue, the reason we call it a claim in fact is that the courts want facts, correct?
Correct.
And also if we go to court, we're making a claim of some kind. So if they want to pull me into that individual judge's court, he's claiming something that he has authority over me or my freedom, whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's stating a fact that I'm not alive under his judicial oath, his judicial officer oath, which is not the oath to support the Constitution of the United States. Article 6, Clause 2, if he wants to claim to be a judge, I personally think that no municipal court can ever bring us in by force. They can write us up a ticket. Now, if they witness me commit a injury to someone or steal something, their property, then okay, fine. Everything else has to go by the wayside. But that notwithstanding, I claim it's an absolute end of their career, the judge. And this particular judge, what was interesting during the when he refused to allow me to put my claim in fact of life on the record and failed to give me the motion for an identity hearing because 3 days before or 4 days before I had filed a claim in fact of life with my real blood as a fingerprint. He claimed that was a biohazard, and that's why he wasn't allowing it into evidence.
Huh. Okay.
So I'm not even going to go in, but that during the first trial, after he put me in jail for 60 days, 59 days without due process of notification, he smiled and said, "I've just been reappointed for 3 more years. I've been 11 years, 12 years. I'm in my 70s. There's no expiration on retirement for municipal judges." He was so happy. And guess what just happened? January 1st, he retired after only 2 years into his 3 years. And I believe it's because I had finally figured out I needed to go to the state attorney general, who's the only attorney in every state that is duty bound to make sure I get common law, regardless of their statutes. So he's gone. The former prosecutor, she's gone. When I was in Ancora, the state hospital here, the mental hospital, we filed criminal charges against my friend who I was inside. We filed criminal charges against the Department of Health and Human Services commissioner for the state. She's gone. The chief of police of the town, who was in charge of a lieutenant, who I claim forged the warrant of the judges, the judicial officers name, he's gone. But I've never learned how to make it stick, meaning as far as their sending them to prison. And that's what So just recently, in September of last year, I finally notified the state attorney general because I was filing papers in courts, and it's their courts. Forget that. Let the duty-bound officer, the attorney general, make sure that we give them the information they need. And now they have information against one of their own, not made up information against you and me. So now we have the public record. I claim on the public record my blood flows. The fact of death is out of corpus juris secundum. And those cases right there, I've looked them all up. And the conclusions, the lines in there that they give the main takeaway, they're just music to my ears. So basically, let's finish the fact and claim of life verbiage, and then we'll go down to the case.
Are you there?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
So we're putting a claim on the record and a fact on the record. What is it about? A claim of life and a fact of life, which is what their court needs to hear, a claim and a fact. Fine, I'll give you a claim and I'll give you a fact. I am a man and am the claimant and over the age of 21 years and am competent to witness and do claim on the public record the following, which goes back to Article 4, Section 1. My breath moves and my blood flows, and I am alive and I walk upon the land. Many of us have probably done that in some fashion. Not sure it's worked for anyone. And then my mother, and I put in her maiden name as well, informed. We know she's the informant, right, under
Correct.
the system. And the attending doctor, who works for the deep state, certified, and the Philadelphia County Recorder for Pennsylvania State registered the circumstances of my birth. My understanding is that no matter where we are on land, we are on the land. And in the process of me finding out, studying admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, can anyone, it's a metaphorical question, but basically, where is the federal jurisdiction? Where does the federal jurisdiction and the state jurisdiction, where is it concurrent? Under common law. Think about the previous case I mentioned. We had the ocean where the guy was clubbed in the head, and he came on the land and he died there. Where would concurrent jurisdiction, where either the United States or the juror state could prosecute for a crime? The answer is between the high water mark and the low water mark, the tide. So a wharf either can, if it's on a river or some sort of body that the tide ebbs and flows, that property, that location either can be common law of the land of the state, or it can be United States Admiralty and Maritime. That's under the original Constitution. We know that they have blended it all, made it all one. I happen to think that it's the special maritime and admiralty jurisdiction talked about in Title 18, Section 7. Special maritime and admiralty jurisdiction. This was after World War, right in World War II was beginning. They planned all this out. That's when I think they overlay over all the different state corporations with the fake money. That was only 7 years after 1933. So little by little, they were gaining a grip on the freedom and assets of the people, turning them, of course, into persons. So the attending doctor certified in the Philadelphia County Recorder for Pennsylvania State registered the circumstances of my birth, and that's the registered state file number for me within the public record. I showed them where it was. Now it's on file right now. When I get a certificate, when I get a birth certificate, refers to the events related to the birthing of Asher, of the house of, and the certificate of live birth, which documented the circumstances of that event. Some people realize that there is a difference between the certificate of live birth and the birth certificate. When I went to request my certificate of live birth for Pennsylvania, I was told I need a judge's order. Some states just give you the certificate of live birth. But there is the first name that is given to a baby is the surname. So that's why when they ask us for our last name, a lot of you people probably all recognize this, but some might not. The last name, of course, is the name on the tombstone that we're going to have. It's our last name. So when they get us to admit to that, it's not the family name, it's not the surname. And it's the word sir, as you are. Surname refers to maritime jurisdiction anyway. That's a Spanish Romance language. Sir is has to do with the ocean, mermaid, etc. Okay, so we can go down. It has the birth date, and then I talk about once I became 21, which was in 1960. The claimant declares, since that day, the claimant declares he is not a decedent and has not surrendered or abandoned any claims of life, and makes claim and priority entitlement to his estate, ab initio nunc pro tunc. I think I'm going to take out the ab initio. I'm not clear. I did not have it in my original. Okay. I've just been continuing to try to improve it a little.
Right.
For others, but I would not leave. I'd rather not say too much. I'd rather say too little.
Okay.
If I'm going to make a mistake, I don't want to go past the line where it gives them anything they need. That's
fair.
Okay, so now let's go to the fun part, the corpus juris secundum. Now, on page 73 is section 13, and it also is volume 34, I think, or book 34. As they update, and issue new volumes, they change the location around. So this is the one that has the words fact of death. The next one, a few years later, changes that, and it's not as plain. So I like this one, fact of death. And this is the statement that's a jurisdictional requisite of a fact of death. The death of the person on whose estate administration is sought is a jurisdictional requisite, while the presumption of death arising from absence may present a prima facie case sufficient to warrant a grant, it should say of administration, but it actually says and in the book, so that I left it that way. If it subsequently develops that such person is in fact alive, the administration is void. So that's why I put my claim, in fact, on life on the record and recently sent it into the court. And I'm not showing up next Wednesday for the trespassing charge from 2021. And even though the statutes say they can't charge a misdemeanor, prosecute after a year, they've done it anyway. And I didn't know that till recently. They can't just keep it open-ended forever. But I don't even want to bring that up. I want them to violate the Constitution and arrest him. If the chief of police is willing to bet he was a captain. He became chief because the other guy screwed up against him. So I don't know what he's going to do, but I've given him all the same information that I've given to the court and to the state attorney general and to the U.S. district attorney, because we need to find out how to stop these maniacs. And if a few of us have to test out a few things and pay a little price with our time, then I'm willing to do it. So let's go ahead and read the different cases. They really are, not all of them are exactly related to the returning from beyond sea. And actually, before we read these cases, could we pull up that beyond sea document I sent you, which is a definition out of one of the old dictionaries? It's really quite beautiful.
Yeah, I gotta go find it.
I think it says beyond sea. That's not it. It might be in the second.
Yeah, it has a wiki source link.
Correct. If you click on that, it'll pop up. It'll show us the old page. It was pretty good. I felt it was good enough.
Contents blocked.
Did you say you're blocked?
Yeah, it's not letting me to that link.
Huh.
Try that. There we go. And all right. There you go. Black's Law Dictionary, 2nd edition.
I couldn't tell you what it was. I just read it made enough sense.
Betterment, 130 Badal. Howard Practice, New York, 220. Admiral Brady, 79 Maryland, 28 Atlanta. Chase versus Sioux City, Iowa.
No, hold on. We're not looking at the cases. We're looking at the definition beyond sea at the bottom of the page 130.
Okay, here we go. Beyond sea. Beyond the limits of the Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. Outside the United States, out of the state.
Right. And see how that lowercase state is spelled?
Uh-huh.
And we know outside the United States, right?
Right.
So some would say that means outside the government.
Yep.
Beyond sea. Or beyond the United States. I mean, really, the United States has many definitions.
Boy, does
it. Go ahead.
I said, boy, doesn't it. State of confusion.
Right. So as we read all these different comments here, it kind of leads us back to the Cessna KV Act of 1666, which, had some hooks in it, and they had some perhaps had some nefarious reasons. But I like that last line it says the term beyond seas is the proviso or saving clause of a statute of limitations. So if you were outside the country, if you were lost at sea, it put a stay on all of your legal proceedings. So when you get back, that's when the statute of limitations in their world kicks back in, which I found interesting.
Wow.
So it says, in the party who is without those limits, is entitled to the benefit of the exception. And that could be why some people are claiming their securities, and they're returning to the land, and that could be why when we return from beyond sea, we get to cash in whatever it is, our rights, our privileges, our dominance as a man on the land, all those privileges and immunities that citizens, capital C citizens, had back then. Because I don't mind being a citizen, a capital C citizen of one of the several states. I was born on Pennsylvania. I'm a Pennsylvanian. I'll never not be a Pennsylvanian, regardless of where I domicile.
Right.
So I just wanted to show you the Beyond Sea, because that gives us an understanding from a definition standpoint.
All right.
All right. So let's go back to the cases, and then there's just a few lines in there, and then I guess that's probably the end of the presentation, and you can ask.
Okay. Well, it's the stopping point of your progress.
What is that?
Well, it's just where you're in limbo, waiting to see the effectiveness of all of this. Correct?
Yes. As far as real world
application.
World Series of Poker, everybody turns over their cards and see who blinks.
Yeah. All right. It is absolutely essential to the jurisdiction of the administration of an estate that the person on whose estate such administration is granted is dead. And that's a Kansas case.
Could you please put it on the screen? I can't see it.
I thought it was on the screen. It's not on the screen. Oh, sorry. There you go.
And there's a couple lines in here, a couple cases where it really makes the point that we're making here. Like it really, I feel, really gives us.
It's the one I just covered. Oops.
Okay, go ahead.
Right here.
Yeah, you put that
Kansas
first,
case. Right? This is Texas Civil Appellate Court in Texarkana. There's another one out of Washington. And moving on to the next one. A living person has no estate subject to probate, and there is no vested right of inheritance in the estate of a living person. That's a Oklahoma case. Any administration on the estate of a living person is void. That's Georgia, Kansas, New York, Oklahoma. Production of body is not required. And that is out of, it's a federal case out of the Western District of Pennsylvania. And that's the cases that support the claim and fact of life.
Correct. And somewhere, I don't see exactly where, I forget where it is, but there's a comment where it says that the administration is not voidable, it is void.
Oh, that's the last line here. While the presumption of death arising from absence may not present a prima facie case sufficient to warrant a grant and administration, if it subsequently develops that such person is in fact alive, the administration is void.
Right. So we know that the court is they're administrators. So if we were, at least I was, I'm like, okay, the government needs to administrate. It makes sense, but no. They're administrating the estate, and that's how they're getting paid.
Right.
Through our estate.
Yeah.
Which they're administrating, they're enjoying the inheritance that if I wasn't using it, at least let it stay there and continue to build. Instead, they're leeching it and using it. And I'm not saying I can't give them the okay. Maybe I can at some point. All right, so let's look at the real world, what I did as far as notifying the chief of police. There's a letter which I sent to him April 2nd, knowing that this case was scheduled. And why did I do that? Because he's the executive officer, he's the lawman of the de jure state, and I really would like to share something that happened in 2020. It happens to be the very same man. He was a captain at the time. When I was learning about jurisdiction, and I knew that none of them had oaths, 95% had no oath, and they had picked me up for failure to pay a fine, and this guy put me in the local municipal jail, and after he locked the door, I said, Captain, I said, are you aware that you don't have an oath to the Constitution on file with the city clerk? He didn't say anything. I said, are you aware that for the last 3 months I've gone to city council every month and advised them that 95% of the police officers and the city solicitor do not have the oath of office? At the time I was saying oath of office. Today I would say an oath of allegiance to the Constitution of the United States. I said, thirdly, and finally, are you aware that last Thursday I met with the city solicitor for an hour and she admitted that she's been wrong and she has to have everybody sign the oath? Again, no answer. I said, may I suggest, because I refuse to just be let out of jail on a recognizance bond. You want to take me in, you're taking me in. I said, would you, I said, what I'd like to recommend you do is you call her and have her come down here, because I refuse to leave the jail. So we can discuss this. She comes down to the jail. We talked for a little while. She said, yes, they don't have the oath. Yes, you shouldn't be here. She said, what do I have to do to get you to leave? I'm in the municipal jail. I said, well, I'm on the state, I'm on the land of New Jersey, and all these bars around me are the United States. I said, I looked at my fake watch and I said, there's a case in Trevisan versus Florida or Tampa, $1,000 a minute. I've been here 120 minutes of unlawful arrest. I said, I tell you what, you bring me a check for $60,000 and I'll leave. She said, I can't do that. I said, why not? She said, the case hasn't been adjudicated. I stated, then I guess I'll stay. So they left, went upstairs, and about 20 minutes later, a sergeant comes down and he says, Asher, he said, you can stay, but you don't get any food and no water because this is not the county jail. He offered me a contract. I said, okay, that's a deal. So they opened the door to the jail cell, and for the next 20 more hours, I continued to just stay there. No food, no water. We turned off the heat, took the blanket out of the jail cell. I was kind of chilly. But I had an opportunity to minister the gospel of truth to about 10 different police officers as I changed shifts outside my jail cell. And every 10 minutes in the middle of the night, they would wake me up by yelling, Asher, you're free to go. And I'd say, no, thank you. They didn't want to make it. They didn't want me sleeping. So the point is that we do have authority as men when we stand on the land. That was the point of the story. I knew I was on the land, and I knew that I had him because he had no oath, and he had brought me there unlawfully. And so that was a fun story anyway for what I felt. It was fun. What happened. So, okay, so here, this was dated April 2nd. So I was out in California. I got the notice I needed to be back in New Jersey. I would come back for the summer when the weather's nice anyway. And so I'm like, all right, what do I need to do? We've all heard of certain sheriffs who refuse to enforce certain statutes. So obviously they can if they want to. So I wanted to get the chief of police where he has to choose. Is he going to honor the oath of the Constitution of a living man or is he going to forfeit his $250,000 a year job that he wouldn't have even had I not gone to jail for 2 years? So I said this to him last month. Please see attached spirit of friendship, amity, and cooperation without surrendering any of my inalienable rights. So I'm noticing him. A certified copy of the Treaty of Ghent. Why did I send him that? Very important, which I don't know if we have time today, but in the third article, it talks about captive soldiers, and that's what the British are doing to us with the United States. That's how they're, another way that they're supposing us to be put in jail as captives. That's how they say we owe a debt and haven't paid it, therefore they can send us to be incarcerated. Just another different way they use. So I'm letting him know for his own benefit. As you are aware, I claim that multiple state and federal felonies have been perpetrated against me by the authorities, resulting in almost 2 years behind bars and in Ancora for my religious convictions and actions. Some in the city felt were undesirable, an affront to the polished image of Ocean City, the unquestioned authority of the OCPD, and or the United Methodist Church. At one city council public comment time, because I will go to my city council dressed in a prison uniform and carrying a ball and chain and take my 5 minutes of free speech and teach them what the Constitution says, what their obligations are, plus waking up the public if they want to be woken up. So I have draped myself with a similar POW flag to that of the one flown daily at City Hall, at which time I claim that war is being made against the people by the governments and that we are all considered prisoners of war. I add here that the martial rule governments grant some officials special POW privileges like Colonel Hogan in Hogan's Hero. This information is offered so that the executive officers, him and all his men, might govern themselves better with regard to me by honoring their oath to the Constitution of the United States and cease and desist from also violating international law. Note that the corporate New Jersey Constitution of 1944, it's really 47, I made a mistake, omitted the crime of treason against the state. This, I believe, is due to the nature of the current fabrication of government under martial law rule, not full martial law. By the way, check this out, folks. In the 1844 Constitution, the Supreme Court of New Jersey had to have 6 men who were not bar members on it. That was in the Constitution of 1844 for New Jersey. 6 men on the Supreme Court of New Jersey that were not bar members. That I found interesting. So the Ocean City Police Department has arrested Asher, soon to be a debtor to the United States. Floyd, have you ever seen where it says in the code that you or your means a debtor to the United States, so that when they say, what is your name in court, that it's because it's a debtor to the United States?
No. Can't say that I have.
Well, that is a key to the puzzle, and I trace that back now to the Treaty of Ghent, because it says that if anybody owed a debt for the captivity, for us housing you and feeding you, until you pay the debt, you can't get out. And of course, the governments were supposed to pay the debt for the captives so that they could get out. Well, guess what? When the judge says, what is your name? Under their code, he's defining it as a debtor to the United States. So therefore, they can jail us under the 13th Amendment for punishment for crime in their world. I'm not saying they can as men, but as in the construct that we've allowed ourselves to be subjected to and learned, this is the hooks that they use to take our life, liberty, and property. So, assumed to be the debtor to the United States at various times on the presumption that the real me, Asher, is also a debtor to the Crown and further to the Vatican by extension. The people of the 1776 Revolutionary War declared themselves free and not an indentured servant or slave. My perspective on the 14th Amendment as of now is, when that 14th Amendment was passed, it raised slaves to the indentured servant class, citizens of the United States, small c, and it gave the opportunity for free white men to reduce their status by agreeing to be citizens of the United States from free to indentured servant. So we, the people, created the government. See the Declaration of Independence. And we, the living and free people, remain the true authority. See attached the city solicitor's oath of office. All Americans are, so I'm notifying him, if he gets an administrative order to seize the all caps name with the driver's license and the social security number printed right on the warrant, the administration is void, and he now will knowingly violate my life, liberty, and property as an executive officer. So all Americans of proper lineage are born on the land, but are then deceived into becoming lifetime debtors, regardless of the millions that they might accumulate via the birth certificate. Could you page down a little?
Yeah, hang on, let me get it back over there.
And then after this, we'll just read the letter I sent to the court, and then that'll probably be it. So I've also, we'll just skip down. I mean, I did tell them, my opinion is virtually all arrests are made in the maritime jurisdiction. I've closed again for reference my claim to collective life, which he's seen before, which clearly returns me to living status on the public record under the Constitution of the United States, a document designed to constrain tyrannical government via an oath of office. And then this is where I spoke about what happened in February 2020. So, yeah, I basically state that bar attorneys are always judicial officers, and it talks about the first law of the United States is the oath of office. You can page down, save some time, unless you want to read it. But I think the most important thing now is just read the final letter that I sent to the court. I certified, and I'll show who we copied. And then the last line here is we don't. Yeah, okay. So I don't know if you're able to post everything to the.
So that one go to the Summers Point Municipal Court?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So what was fun for me was notifying all the various people, because we all know that, you know, you get one involved, you got about a dozen people that are involved off of every. Okay, so this is the new judge, the one that just was hired after the old one lost his position January 1st, was forced to resign. So he picked up the case, and as most of us know, they have a bond that they kind of co-signed, and they have to get us to appear in order to make the bond good, or they're kind of in trouble. So these are the oath of allegiance, which is the one that judges take, the capital J judge. And I noticed him that I know he's a bar member and a municipal administrative law judge. You'll notice in the state codes, it's 41-2A, judicial officers. And then the form of oath is the one that has the Constitution of this state. That's the first oath. If anyone wants to read, then they can look them up, and then they'll see. So I basically kind of described, and this letter was also, I sent everything to the newspaper, who did a story on what I claim was my false arrest. I keep them informed of the status, and I also send it to city council. Judiciary of New Jersey has refused to release actual copies of subscribed oaths of any judges. This kind of goes into the history, which he doesn't know. Now I go, okay, here's the summons, and I'm going to apply this to all Ocean City summonses, cases pending, and present or whatever. So here I accept this oath of office. I underline where it says the judges, full faith and credit. And then here's all the people who I serve. Probation officer, Cape May County surrogate. I'm also going to be testing that I'm supposed to report in. It's a long story, but basically for these municipal charges from 2021, they put me on a probation where it'll go on forever. And I didn't realize they get paid every month and it goes on. So I did like this revoking and revesting the trust. I basically revoked the trust and then revested it, and then in the bottom of the letter, I basically tell the judge I give him my okay, limited power of attorney to settle the matter, and therefore I'm hopeful that he will just do that. And I'm putting him on notice. This was the trust law violation. Was the recommendation of my friend who was framed and put in prison for a while. She exclaims that it's basically trust law. So I highlighted any person, court. This is me talking. Any person, court, or bar member, judge, or attorney who fraudulently assumes the role of trustee or otherwise makes a false claim in breach of trust against the estate is subject to the law. So now that I'm alive and now that they're administering my estate, imagine if I was alive and someone tried to claim I was dead and started robbing my land or my assets. That would be a serious offense. Essentially, that's what they're doing.
All right.
So that's it. I thank you for the time. I hope it was helpful, and it raised people's level of understanding, perhaps in their own situations, and the pieces might fall into the puzzle about how and why things happen. Right.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Y'all put it over here in the comments before Asher burns off. While we're waiting on those, usually, pretty much every guest I have, I allow them to, give some closing, whatever you want to do for the audience, to kind of give them, some uplifting, something positive, what's going on in your future, how to contact you, if you want to do that, if you do consultations, if you have a website, if you have social media, anything like that. So the floor is yours, sir.
Oh, thank you. No, I really don't have any, I'm not chasing any sort of
gain.
Yeah, I never charge for anything that I do to help people. It's just basically volunteerism, like our country was founded on. At this time, I'm fortunate I have people who help me with my expenses because I really am focused on this. But they do it because they love me, not because I'm doing something for them.
Right.
They know my objectives, and they were, they suffered through the 2 years of me being away, and they understand we're all Christians, the whole family. Most of us are strongly committed to the point of death, which we are supposed to be for truth. So I think they honor that.
Right.
So at this time, I don't. There's enough people out there, and fortunately, you're one of them who gives a platform to folks like myself who have discovered a few things, and then hopefully it'll catch on and have a life of its own. And it should be available. Freedom should be available to all who who are entitled to it and can keep the republic for themselves.
Right, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for coming on here and sharing your experiences and your knowledge and your research. I really do appreciate it. And God bless you. I wish you all the best and hope this really actually works because, for most people, I've been doing this, 13 years now? Yep, 13 years. And golly, it's a struggle and it's such difficulty trying to accomplish things because it takes up so much of your time, money, and energy, and you have to sacrifice things, here and there to make up for that difference to pursue this full time as you're doing.
Right. And so I really do believe we are turning the corner. A lot of us, I think all the patriot myths, some of it's starting to actually not be myth, it appears. And so with enough of us focusing, and the sooner we can return to the land, the sooner we can see. There was a question there, how many times should one place notice in the paper?
Right.
In my mind, one time is enough that I have to prove I'm alive. I don't play by their rules, they play by my rules. So I only put it in once.
And
I know they like their three
rules
times.
Yeah, their rules are 3 times. So if you want to be overzealous and just be absolutely sure, do it 3 times. That would be my opinion on that. You don't have to, just like Asher has done, I'm doing it 1 time, that's enough. But I encourage everybody to use the UCC database in your state, not as to file liens, but as an informational portal to the public. So that's another way of doing public notices, because once you publish in a newspaper or some type of media, you can upload it and put it in the UCC as a non-lien filing. Most people don't know that.
Right, so that would be a notice as well.
Absolutely.
I'm a little concerned about it. I know it does have common law value. It's co-equal sort of with the common law, the UCC.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a little concerned that they'll use it against me in some way.
Yeah,
so
I get it.
The UCC did not exist in 1855, but I know it.
Right. Yeah, I get it. Remember, I'm Native American. My 6th grade uncle was the lead negotiator and signatory for the Treaty of New York of 1781 with George Washington.
Nice. I will offer my email address if anyone is interested in
contacting you. Well, be careful what you wish for, but okay, give it out.
That's all right. We don't have 1,000 people watching at the moment, so
right.
We'll go with this and try it.
Okay.
I'm willing to take the chance. And who knows, somebody may really need it right now, and we can get it done. And
there you go. They may have the missing link.
Yeah. So we have it's Asher Organic Laws at Gmail. My name
ASHER.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Organic.
Mm-hmm.
And the word laws, plural. And then at gmail.com. And I would be able to send them all of the same, everything's ready to be attached. I can send them all of the same information I sent to your show. Oh, there it is. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yep. So if y'all want to contact him, there you go. That's where you need to send your email. Just put on there the Fearless Floyd Show or Fearless Floyd, whatever. That way he knows what where you're coming from and why you're emailing him and you're not spam or soliciting him. So, well, great. Darrel, I know you're watching. Thank you very much for introducing me to this fine gentleman. I hope to have him back on, and definitely keep us updated on your progress, Asher.
Absolutely, I will, and I honor your. I've tuned into. You're all over the place. You pop up a lot here at the store.
Yeah, talk about a lot of stuff. I got a big mouth.
That's all right. He who has a thing to sell and goes and whispers in a well is much less likely to get the dollar than he that climbs the tree and hollers.
Right. Yep. Well, I tell everybody, you want to shut me up, come beat me up. Because generally, if you can beat me up, we're going to go have dinner and be friends.
Thanks for the honor, and I hope it was a blessing and effective. And I will definitely get back to you regardless of the results.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Asher.
Right.
God bless you. Have a great night.
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody. That was Asher, and you got his story of what his own church and his community did to him. They literally prosecuted him for stalking the pastor. When I heard the story, I was like, man, this is just, how do I get all these crazy stories? They're just the lunacy. But, it is what it is. There's a lot going on. I wish I had time to make more videos and share more information and dissect other people's videos for you guys. But just time is very sparse for me right now. It's what happens when you're living through this crazy economic times where, you could wake up tomorrow and gas is $1 more, Trump's talking about, $100, $200, $300 a barrel. What? What? Have you lost your damn mind? Have you ever pumped gas? Let's go back to fundamental square one, right? Hey, Donald, have you ever open the gas tank, turn the lid, and got the handle and push the button and no? Well, no wonder you don't know. No wonder it makes no sense whether it's 100 or 300 or $10 a barrel. These are the people making the decisions that have no concept of reality. I mean, for the people that, you're scraping every dollar, you're having to ride the bus or carpool, or you can't even afford a car. It's crazy times. Crazy, crazy times. For this country that produces all this energy, we export oil. We don't import not one drop of oil from Iran, but yet paying these exorbitant prices. But don't look over here. We're going to let you look at some UFOs and some alien technology and all that. So you forget about the Epstein and you pay no attention to the pedophiles on the Disney cruise ship. But you're over here, now we got you terrified. Fear porn, fear porn, fear porn. Warning, warning, warning. The hantavirus is coming. They're going to monitor you. Well, how are they going to monitor me, Floyd? Well, that would be the CDC National Wastewater Surveillance Program. Remember when I profiled that? Where literally the wastewater egressing your residence where you live or where you reside or however you want to define that is actually tested and monitored. So what else do you excrete there in the wastewater? Oh, your DNA. Well, I've been trying to warn you folks. But I want you to think on this, okay? I'm gonna give you a big picture to think about. Let me go look this up real quick. And see if I can find a picture. Picture speaks 1,000 words. No. Aha! I think that's it. Oops. Yeah, that's it. Let me go here, share. So a lot of people don't know this, but hey, this right here, this is the NSA headquarters, and that's a black cube. And it's a data collecting center. So everybody's like, wow, look what the NSA's got. Maybe we should get one too. So, not only are the AI companies like Anthropic and OpenAI and all the other ones over there, they're like, God, man, the NSA, they're getting so much data, man. They're like wired in. How can we do that? Hey, benefactors, can you hook us up? Oh, you can? Okay, cool. So, hey, we got permission. We can build our own black box data centers. So everybody, they're building their own data centers. Why? To collect your data, manage your life. And they're putting them in every neighborhood. I know. Future's so bright, you might want to put on some shades. It's coming, man. Nobody's raising hell. But it is what it is. And, I'm trying to warn you folks, what's up? Thank Asher for coming on. Darrel, again, thank you for introducing me to the fine gentleman. I pray to God the process works and he's extracted from the clutches of a tyrannical, parasitic, juvenile, delinquent bully called Uncle Sam. Oh, and I was talking to this guy the other day and yesterday, actually, and we were talking about, Trump's going to bring back the draft. And they're like, no way. I'm like, oh, yeah, watch. All these, youthful teenagers you see doing all these little street takeovers, mall takeovers, getting curfewed out of malls and different water parks here locally in Houston. They're jobless, and how do we fix that? Oh, well, shit. We'll just call the boss and ask the boss, hey, what should we do with all these? Oh, well, okay, we're going to do it just like they do it over there in Israel, because that's what the boss says. So we're just going to run them all through, give them a mandatory 2-3 years, free college education, put them on that on the grant. Ooh, I got some wind coming. So that'll scoop up a half a generation. They're all saying men, but I think both sexes need to go. To be honest with you, I think we need to toughen up Americans and hope. But if you didn't watch the video I did earlier, I talked about, how we are being infiltrated from the inside out, where these immigrant communities from all over the world come in here. They move in little pockets of certain jurisdictions, of little cities, counties, townships, parishes, whatever, and they take over and they start running for office. And before you know it, your school board, and I'm being general, your school board's full of Chinese, your school board's full of Indians, your school board's full of Pakistanis, your school board's full of Vietnamese, your school board's full of, you see where I'm going with this? Somalis. And now they're running for mayor. Now they're chief of police and sheriff. And, before you know it, your little jurisdiction's been taken over while you're over here playing around in these little weekly or monthly meetings, talking to all these people about, oh, this is what we're going to do, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to make a promise to you. All of those over there who want to play in the de jure, you're going to get overrun by immigrants. They're going to take over your community just like I described. And you're going to live under their tyranny, their rules, their procedures, their culture, their religion. because you've been playing in the wrong sandbox. I've been telling everybody, man, go run for office, take over, go make changes yourself. But y'all want to waste y'all's time, money, and energy over there in stupid shit. When you should be supporting yourself and go back into the system and change the system within. Otherwise, the Constitution says it's a revolution, folks. We need to restore our government. So take your pick. Whose tyranny do you actually want to live under? Somebody from a completely different continent, completely different culture, completely different beliefs, ethics, morals, standards. Where in their culture, I'll just use Iraq for an example. Hey, 12-year-old girls, they're game. Yeah. If I was in Iraq, I was an Iraqi, I could go get me a 12-year-old like that. And nobody would bat an eye because it's legal. It's their culture. So if that's what you'd like to live under, and I'm not saying we're being invaded by Iraqis, but I'm using it as a hypothetical example to over exaggerate the point. So, boom, it doesn't go like ear to ear and straight out of your head. It actually sunk in. You know, most people don't really even have a clue. The number one country for transgender surgery is Iran, because homosexuality is illegal. But if you become a transgender, well, then you can have sex with another man. Wink, wink, nod, nod, nudge, nudge. This is what we're allowing in our country. Now we've had illegal immigration, and, you know, Trump's not trying to catch all them. He's catching the bad guys, and, you know, that kind of, it's gone. We've got bigger things to deal with, like, you know, Epstein, pedophiles, Iran war, Israel invading us and directing our president, inflation, taxes, gas prices, grocery prices, unemployment, AI taking over everything. Pick and choose, folks. I'll see you when I see you. Y'all have a great weekend. God bless you. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate your time, money, and energy spending it with me. Good night.